Now, this video is expansive when it comes to Bill Gates. He did this interview with the Wall Street Journal discussing RFK, Jeffrey Epstein, autism, global, health, his global health initiatives. And we also discuss his meeting with Trump and how he's talking about Trump now because he has lost all control of his global mechanisms that were used to do the things that he wanted to do. And so I'm going to put chapters in this video. If you only can deal with one chapter because you know your own ability to kind of pay attention, make it the last one where we talk about exactly what Trump did and why Bill Gates is floundering so much. But this is, I've already shot the video. Very proud of this thing. I hope you guys watch the whole thing and let's jump into it. And again, if you're only going to watch one chapter, make it the very last one of the video. And we're going to start today with this clip right here of Bill Gates commenting on RFK's claims that he killed children with the jabs, okay? Now, I want you to just listen to this, and you tell me what you hear and what you don't hear. And then we're going to get to, how he's so impressed with Donald Trump and how we know that is him absolutely scrambling because Donald Trump has taken one specific action that is basically equivalent to, like a stake through the heart. And so Bill Gates acting like, hopefully me and him can have a good relationship when Trump already took a samurai sword and put it straight through his heart. But let's look at this real quick because obviously him and RFK are arch enemies. And so she's going to ask him about RFK and then let's hear what he says. And you have to also understand in advance, RFK is the head of the Department of Health. Okay, that is the single number one decision maker that affects the funding that comes from the U.S. government into all of these health initiatives globally. And Bill Gates is the guy who has been going in and raiding the coffers of the United States for years and being like, we're doing this in Africa. We're doing this over here. We need to get the COVID thing under control. We have mRNA over here. We have He's that guy and getting tax dollars to fund these different things. And he hides behind the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation being a nonprofit as if he's doing it because he's some kind of, I'm doing this for charity. Yeah, right, guy. It is unbelievable how many people fall for that. But anyway, I want you to watch this really quick, okay? And you tell me what he says here and what he doesn't say, okay, about RFK.
What do you make of RFK and vaccines and what he's saying about it and the position he's been given in this incoming administration?
Well, he wrote a book saying that Tony Fauci and I kill millions of children and make billions of dollars with vaccines. And, people can judge for themselves whether that's correct or not.
What do you make?
So let's go through that real quick, okay? His answer to what do you think of RFK is, well, he wrote a book saying that me and Anthony Fauci killed millions of children and made millions of dollars, period, right? Okay, well, what's next? What's your comment about that? You stated a fact, right? You stated a fact. It was very widely read. So, what's your follow-up to that? Well, and I mean, you guys can judge whether or not that's true. Okay? Well, how would we do that? Because are you denying it? Are you denying that that's true? Because I feel as though if that was not true, you would deny it, okay? Because that's not a denial. That is in no way a denial. And if you really want to think through this whole thing, that's an easy thing to deny, man. And that's the point. That's the point with the RFK book and Bill Gates and Fauci and all that. If anything that he said in that book was not true, do you know how fast they would have sued him? Do you have any idea how fast they would have sued him? I mean, right? Making claims like that, if they weren't true, they'd bury him under the lawsuits. But they didn't. And he's not denying that here either. That's a tricky, slippery answer, right? Because I can absolutely guarantee, well, first of all, the billions of dollars, this is not rocket science. This comes right back to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And again, I don't want to completely take this video over because I want to talk about how for 100% sure that Trump is not with Gates, with the samurai to the heart, because we're going to get that in a second. But the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, that is a tricky way to A, not pay taxes, and B, appear like you're doing this to be charitable as opposed to a profit-motivated endeavor, right? Which, candidly, I don't have a problem with people being profit-motivated as long as the net result is something good that is defensible. I'm not like naive enough. Now, I obviously don't like this guy. You know, I really don't like his approach. I really don't like the way that he clearly believes in this tyrannical top-down control that he wants to be the one pulling the strings on. I mean, it's very obvious to me what he's doing. Now, if you're enjoying this content, why don't you go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you know when I upload, or I guess you're going to need to ring the bell, and also say all notifications if you want to know every single time that I upload. A different situation that is similar but tougher to make the call. Let's say you have an airplane that's been hijacked. Let's say 9/11 is exactly as the official story happened. You have a hijacked airplane, one of 4, right? 3 of which have already crashed into their targets, killing thousands of people. Trade, and Pentagon. And you got one more. You don't know for sure where it's going. Probably the White House or probably whatever. Okay. These people who are on board, they're going to die anyway. Bottom line, 98%. They're going to die anyway. So your options are, do you shoot down an American jetliner that's filled with American civilians to take away their ability to crash those civilians into a building filled with other American citizens? Or do you say, well, we can't do a thing like that, and then you just let them crash into whatever they were going to crash into and kill a bunch of other people? That's a really hard decision, but it's really not a very hard decision. If that's your only option to keep them from successfully executing that part of the mission, you have to shoot it down. You have to. It's a terrible decision, but greater good, right? I've always thought Flight 93, high probability that they took it down, and you literally cannot announce that. You can't publicly announce, you know, we were forced to shoot this plane down. I mean, or let's just say that, that's not the right. What I would say is if they did shoot it down, I don't think that they would tell you that they shot it down. That's what I think. I think that they would just kind of have to tell a different story, that the people took it over and whatever. There's all this there's a lot of weirdness around the crash site of Flight 93. And so I'm like, they probably had to shoot that one down. Maybe they make a fake crash site. Maybe they whatever. I don't know. But they probably had to shoot that one down. It's just my hypothesis. And I understand that. I understand why they wouldn't want to tell people that. I understand why they would make that decision. So when you come to like global health, yeah, if you need to do human trials on a large scale to be able to figure out what's what, it's not like I'm oblivious to the fact that, yeah, like you're going to have in a vacuum some situations that look just straight up evil. However, if you review the entirety of this guy's behavior, then you're like, I can't put this guy in, just making tough decisions. This guy is trying to stranglehold the entire global health organization so he could control everything, not just global health. He also was all over climate change. Climate change was the other thing that he was all over. And then all of a sudden now he's not, like, he's out because people have not bought into this, right? He chose the wrong way to do what he should have been trying to do anyway. And I'll talk about that in a second. Now we're about to get to the real beef of this story, which is the 2 samurai swords that Trump stuck through Bill Gates' heart. But first, I want to tell you about the sponsor of this video, where you will get real reporting on this guy and everything that's coming up in the future, unlike in the mainstream media. Now, by now, it should be obvious why I continue to work with Ground News. Their mission to make media more transparent and their use of data to give readers a full perspective on breaking news aligns with my principles, and it also aligns with how I research my videos. Their visual breakdowns show political bias, they show reliability, ownership, and it makes it incredibly easy to compare headlines for each story and access information much quicker. Let's take a look at the exploding Cybertruck story as an example. You can see right here how many outlets covered it. You can see over here the bias distribution, whether it's left, center, or right. This is pretty evenly distributed. And we can go down here and compare headlines, as well as the lean left, lean right data points, and decide which ones we want to read. Now, I will continue to say that the blind spot feed is the best part of Ground News. I want to show you a few stories that you may not have heard of because they are blind spots. This is my favorite feature on Ground News because these stories slip through the cracks. And if you just go to Ground News blind spot page, you can find so many interesting stories that no one is seeing. Check these out. The blind spot feed is like a litmus test for left or right to see, are you an objective person? Because if you're an objective person and you're on the right and you find out that no one is covering a story, then, you should want to read that. If you don't, then you're not objective. Now, while I'm scrolling these, you go over to ground.news/Jesse or scan the QR code to subscribe. Ground News is giving my viewers 40% off the unlimited access Vantage plan, the plan I use to research all of my videos. It's only $5 per month, and in a world where news moves fast and the truth is hard to find, it's important to be using Ground News to get a full perspective. Plus, by subscribing, you're directly supporting my work. So as I referenced earlier, this is a video that I watched from front to back. It is 22 minutes long. It's on Russell Brand's channel, and I highly suggest that after you get the context that I'm going to give you in this video, you go back and watch this, because bottom line is that suddenly Bill Gates is discussing
this whole thing
that. Bill Gates is discussing that for the first time. All of a sudden, being on the spectrum exists. And you got to ask yourself, well, I wonder why that's going on. I'm going to let him talk, and then we're going to discuss why he's doing this, in my opinion.
This whole thing of Asperger's or on the spectrum is a fairly new thing. Used to be autism had a fairly narrow definition that was, clearly identifiable. But this idea that if you're slow socializing, I have a behavior where I rock that bothers people, but that's also common, so-called self-stimming type thing. So I realized, wow, there's a bit of a pattern match there.
In his upcoming...
Okay, so let me just break down exactly what he just did right there. Okay, number one, he's minimizing that being on the spectrum is any kind of like bad thing, right? It's like, hey, man, I'm on the spectrum. Look at that, dude. Hey, Elon's on the spectrum. Look at that. Hey, you think Zuck's not on the spectrum? Hey, listen, if you get on the spectrum, you're like kind of a super genius, right, guys? Like, what's wrong with being on the spectrum? And maybe there's nothing wrong in that specific type of, like how it happens. But what we're actually talking about is this is the dude who is globally responsible for the absolute widest funding in terms of jabs that people take in order to prevent them from getting certain things in the world, in human history. And as we know, there has been an absolute ironclad or, iron curtain on anyone saying that there is a possibility that that is caused by the increase or specific jabs that they are taking. It's not that it's been proven that there's no connection. Okay. Well, what I'm telling you is that is not true. Like, that's just not true. They have not proven anything. And when you watch this later, okay, this guy will go through all of it, and he's going to show exactly what the truth is, which is that they have very intentionally not tested to find out whether or not it is. I'm not saying that there is a direct link. I don't know. What I'm telling you is that there's no question that the global medical infrastructure has taken incredibly intentional and widespread steps to never test to find out whether or not there is in fact a connection. Now you can hypothesize about why they would do that, but that's not up for debate. Okay. And if this is the first you're hearing of that, again, go watch that. Okay. Oh, it's on Russell Brand's channel, blah, blah, blah. It's like, don't tell me that you think you're well-informed if you refuse to watch other sources of information. Go watch it, okay? If you think that for sure it's been disproven, go watch it and then respond to it. Go respond to the global medical leaders who are the ones being quoted specifically. Everyone goes, oh, haven't you heard blah, blah? She cites this study. Those people specifically in depositions admit that there is absolutely zero evidence whatsoever to back up the claims they're making. None. On video. So you tell me, okay? So now why do you think that Bill Gates would be suddenly talking about this? Has anything happened since then that you could think of? Could it be, I don't know, maybe the fact that Donald Trump and RFK have absolutely in clear words stated they are going to find out one way or the other if the increase in prevalence, which has gone from like one case in thousands of children to like 1 in 36 now over the last few decades. It's like, oh, what's changed? What's changed? So he's already trying to set up, well, we're now just figuring out what the spectrum is, like they're going to try to redefine what it means to have autism. Okay, that's one way they'll potentially play defense against it. And the other is going to be like, well, it's not even that big of a deal, right? Oh, and also, it's a pretty new thing. We haven't been intentionally trying to, suppress that. Now, this is my point. This brings this back to how you could justify intentionally not doing those studies. Is like in their mind, the Flight 93 situation, right? In their mind, like if they're going, well, mathematically, if we don't have everyone take the shots, then the total number of children who will die is going to be X, right? And that's not even, I know there are like, hardcore people that will disagree with that. Gabrielle, my wife being one of them, okay? I've always thought that's insane. I think that you can mathematically and just from data show that the global adoption of these shots has been a greater good, I guess. Again, I'm not even going to pretend that I'm some kind of thought leader on this, so don't, sham me in the comments. My view is that they have been a net positive that as soon as you gave the companies blanket immunity to where they are no longer responsible for injuries, now they stopped caring about the safety of those products, and thus all of these things have spiked out of control because these corporations are black-hearted, evil, profit-driven, evil people. They don't care. They're like, give them 75 shots. And you're like, why? They're all, because maximizes profit. You're all, I think we've lost the plot here, dude. Okay? So just to be clear on my opinion, that's what it is. Overall net positive that has run so rampant that now it's a net negative. That's my opinion on what it is, and we're going to find out one way or the other. And by the way, that's the exact position RFK has, okay? So that's one thing that he's right out of the gate doing, okay? Right out of the gate. That is what he's doing. Now, when you talk about the Jeffrey Epstein thing, I also think this maybe has a little bit to do with it because he got rung up on the Epstein thing, and it absolutely crushed his, it crushed his global image for anyone who's actually paying attention. They're like, oh, he's a saint doing all of this not for profit. And I want to talk about that really quick too as we get into the Jeffrey Epstein thing. Okay, the idea that you don't make money doing this type of work with global vaccines because you are running a nonprofit is absurd. Okay, it is absurd. It is not true. Okay. Now, in a nonprofit, what that means is you can stack up all this money. You don't pay any taxes. People donate to it. You get money in these different, do you really believe the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has donated $50 billion and contributed $59 billion to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation? Okay. And that's in 2020, right? The third largest charitable organization holding $69 billion in assets as of 2020. That's before the pandemic. Okay? That's before the pandemic. Do you really believe that what's happening with that money, they're just donating it out and then they're like, we don't want anything back? Or that Bill Gates, who has gigantic billions of dollars in these black private equity organizations that they do follow all of the investments that are the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation's, donations. You really believe that Bill Gates is not making money on that? You really think that he's not making billions of dollars? Does anyone seriously believe that? Okay, can I prove it? No, of course not. But I can say unequivocally that money given to charities, $69 billion, are we talking semantics? That's not making money. What can you do with a charitable foundation? Can you buy buildings? Yes. Can you buy politicians? Yes. Can you donate to companies and then have some kind of profit sharing? I don't know if you can do profit sharing, but you can buy basically anything aside from residential homes. Okay. If you're Bill Gates and you're worth $100 billion on paper, just your Microsoft alone. Okay. You're not looking to buy another house. You're not looking to buy, you can buy anything that you want. If you just took that $100 billion, just on the interest alone, if you just take small bits of your profits on your Microsoft year over year and you take that in cash, there's nothing you can't buy. Okay. So when you do a charitable organization, don't pay taxes, do whatever, you can do all of these things you can't do as a private citizen without paying taxes. It's literally you could look at it as a tax shelter or a very smart vehicle for boosting your own net worth as well as the value of your organization. The idea that this is just a charity thing is ridiculous. It's absurd, okay? Now, we live in a world of, it's capitalism. You can't complain that someone's making profit, okay? But the idea that he gets to hide under this cloud of charity, which means he doesn't care about the profits driven by the things he's doing, is ridiculous. It's so stupid and naive that I don't even know what to say about it. But the bottom line, when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein is dude, this hurt his image bad. And so you could go back to I do this self-stimming I'm on the spectrum. Oh, maybe I'm whatever. But listen to what he says about him and Jeffrey Epstein.
Lives.
The Journal previously reported on Gates' ties to Jeffrey Epstein, including that Epstein threatened Gates over an affair he had. The two met a few times, Gates says, to discuss philanthropy.
Do you think, looking back at that...
By the way, I have always speculated that his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein was not what it seems to everybody, where they're talking about, he was there because, Jeffrey Epstein threatened Bill Gates. And you're like, maybe, it's possible. Or Bill Gates was leveraging Jeffrey Epstein's ability to blackmail other people to get things that he wanted done, right? Right? I don't even need to get into the rest of this. Bottom line, he says like, oh, it was a mistake. You know, obviously I was naive and I'm much more careful about who I talk to, whatever. But the bottom line is this, dude. You don't have any idea what the circumstances of their relationship are, and it's very possible that Bill Gates was leveraging Jeffrey Epstein as a vehicle for blackmailing other people into doing the things that he wants. Bottom line, if you think that's not true, fine. I am saying it is highly possible that that is what they were doing. Now, the last part that I wanted to talk about this is his meeting with Trump, okay? Because bottom line, and here are the two samurai swords that Trump stuck straight through his heart, okay? What are Bill Gates' two areas where he focuses all of his energy? Okay, he was doing climate change, right? And he was trying to use the climate change thing to get government dollars for blah, blah, blah. That is his entire deal here, is he works with the governments and he says, hey, we've got this global problem, so the government will pass legislation to allocate dollars towards the solve of these things. Do you think that, like, does the government go out and build this stuff? Like, they're all, oh, we're going to allocate $100 billion to climate change. Well, okay, the government doesn't build windmills. The government doesn't do that. They give that money to private organizations, okay? Or charitable organizations, right? So Bill Gates is the one who goes in, he presents, oh, we've got this global problem, whatever, and then the government gives him these gigantic blocks of money, right? So where are the two places he's doing that? One, climate change and the environment. Two, global vaccines. That's what he does, okay? So what are the two global organizations that represent those two things? What two organizations are represented by those two things? WHO, Paris Climate Accord. What's the first thing that Trump did when he went into office and signed executive orders? Boom, out of the Paris Climate Accord, boom, out of the WHO. Right out of the gate, that is what he did, okay? So Bill Gates coming in here and being like, oh, I had a really exciting conversation with Trump. Yeah, right. He despises Trump. Despise him. And listen to how he's talking about him, because he knows you can't talk about him bad anymore because Trump has incredible power now. So listen to how he talks about Trump, knowing that Trump just eviscerated his entire global infrastructure.
I had a chance to go have a long and actually quite intriguing dinner with him.
What did you discuss? What was intriguing?
Well, we touched on a lot of things. It was over 3 hours. To my surprise, it was, just he and I, his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, and the person who helps manage things for me, Larry Cohen. So the four of us sat there, and it was quite wide-ranging. Global health's the area that I work in, and such amazing things have happened and can happen there. I spoke a lot about HIV and that the foundation's literally working on a cure for that. We're at an early stage, and so he, in the COVID days, accelerated the vaccine innovation. So I, was asking him if maybe the same kind of thing could be done here.
Now, what do you think he means by that? What do you think he means by that? Okay, because I'll tell you exactly what he means. He means, will you push forward an initiative that is going to take tax dollars and give them to me and give them to my organizations that are getting close on a cure for HIV? Like, if you think that that's not what he's saying, I am telling you unequivocally, that is exactly what he's saying. Oh, well, you don't, you were down with the government giving us stuff to try to hurry up and get a jab for the virus when we were in the pandemic. So what do you think? You think we could do something like that this time? And I think he was very receptive to that. That's what he's talking about. This is his entire business model. It's going to the government, getting this money from the governments, calling it research. It is research, I'm sure. But if you have an issue with how he does things globally, then, we just need to be on the same page. That is for sure what he's saying about that.
And we both got, I think, pretty excited about that. We talked about polio, where we're very close to getting that done, but if you stop, it'll spread back. Mm-hmm. And so I explained why it's been tough in Pakistan, Afghanistan. We've had cases show up in Gaza. We have cases in Africa. And he was fascinated to hear what he could do to maximize the chance that during the next 4 years, that incredible milestone will be achieved.
Yeah, exactly. And what can he do during the next 4 years? Money to Gates. Money is what he can do. Bill Gates tells you, well, here's what literally all this is. It's the same as a venture capitalist sitting down, Trump being the VC, and someone coming in with a business idea. Okay, in this case, they say, oh, it's not about profit as well. Like, listen to the global health, whatever. Do you really believe that Bill Gates is there being charitable? I mean, do you honestly believe that's his sole motivation? Is like, hey, we can almost eradicate polio. Or he's figured out, he's smarter than these guys, okay? Or in the historically, he's been smarter than all these government people. You come in like, I could get, seriously, if I looked different or got into some kind of different outfit when I got out of college and went into politics, I could very easily have been someone who stands on stage, tells you all the things I'm going to solve, and I'm a person that people will get behind because they can connect with my energy or whatever, and then I end up in some kind of government official, position. I end up president of the United States in this hypothetical scenario. Do you think I know anything about the cases of polio in Gaza? You think there's any scenario, just because I'm the president, that I have any idea what the true statistics of HIV in Africa are? It's just someone telling me, okay? So I'm the one making a decision, and you got Bill Gates, and he's been going in there. He's been doing this for years and just telling those people, like, look, we're about to solve this, Mr. President. We just need da-da-da-da. And all he has to do is convince them of this, and then they green light him billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars. That's the business model. That is what Bill Gates does. If you do not understand that, then you need to revamp what you think Bill Gates does here. And if you really believe that he is not profiting off this, you're wrong, okay? Bottom line, in my opinion, Bill Gates, in my opinion, he is profiting from this in a multitude of ways. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation having billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars that he controls. Okay, you can say that's not profit because it's a charitable organization. Well, what can you do with that money? You could do anything with that money except buy like private homes, okay? You could buy 1,000 jets. Okay, you could have a fleet of politicians that you could have all these different lobbyists that can lobby for all of this stuff. Like, you could spend that money basically any way that you want. In addition to the fact that private equity firms that control this money, no one has any idea whose money it is. Oh, I wonder if some of it's Bill Gates, because they follow the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation donations all over the place, and they make investments into those companies. So Bill and Melinda Gates, they get the money tax-free. They invest it into research in this small company like, I don't know, Moderna as an example. Perfect example. And then there's private equity that comes in behind it, right? And they position themselves through private equity investments, and then, shocker, Moderna ends up being the one that gets the patent on the mRNA vaccine, and it ends up being worth hundreds of billions of dollars. And whoever got that private equity money in there, well, wow, they really killed it. I'm sure Bill Gates had no money in that at all. Give me a fucking break, man. Okay, that's how that works. Anyway, that is enough for this video. We've been going for 30 minutes, so go ahead, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. I appreciate you.